So in the last video, we set up our portfolio here. Now we need to add it to our store by importing it first of all. So this portfolio module we just created, add it here to the modules object again. And here I'm just repeating this portfolio means that we have the long version would be portfolio. So this is now set up. Now we can use all the actions and the getters here to also update our portfolio and to make this buy button work. Let's hook up the buy button. So in the stock.view file here, I do have my buy stock method here. And in this method, I now finally wanna use this order I created to dispatch it. So here I can say this store dispatch. Of course, I could also map my actions and then call this action here. But I wanna do it like this. Dispatch, and now the name of the action is buy stock. Now this action is in the stocks module, whereas the mutation is in the portfolio module. You could argue that both should be in the same module, and I wouldn't necessarily disagree. I also want to show though that you can of course commit mutations across modules here. This is why I chose to use this setup. And of course, you could also say that the action should occur in the stocks module, whereas then the updating of the portfolio really belongs to the portfolio module. That would be a different argument. So with that, I can simply dispatch by stock here, and I need to pass the order as a second argument as my payload. Now in the stocks.js file, by stock doesn't do much right now, does it? It doesn't commit anything. So here we need to commit by stock, and here we see this global namespace. Even though it's a different module, by stock here will refer to this by stock mutation. And there, of course, we also need to pass our order as an argument to this mutation so that this mutation is able to pull the data it needs to pull. So with that, if we set it up like this, we're actually able to dispatch this action, and we can already have a tiny look at this. If we open up the console and try buy, at least we don't see an error, so that looks good. Now to finally see if that works, I'll remove this console log, and now I want to go to my portfolio and make sure that the portfolio is actually printed to the screen so that we can see if it gets updated, if that works. For that, let's head over to the portfolio view file. And here I first of all also want to set up a div which wraps everything. And then I need some stock components, like I do have here in my stocks module. Now I will copy the code from this stock view file, and of course that's always a good sign that you might want to refactor it, though I will change quite a lot of that code, which, as I explained at the beginning of this module, is the reason why I decided to use two different components instead of one. But you may feel free, of course, to merge them into one. Now, first of all, what I'll change is I'll get rid of the buy stock method, and then I need to work on this template. The general layout here is fine, though it starts here at the subtitle. We'll not only have a price, we'll also have a quantity here. So I also want to output stock quantity, a field we do have because that is what I'll set up here in my stocks array. When I add a new stock, it has this quantity field. Therefore, I can access it here when outputting an individual stock. Of course, we also have an input where we are able to buy things with the model here. So that's all fine. And I also want to make sure that we're not selling less than we have, so that we're not selling less than 0. I will soon add some checks to also make sure we're not selling more than we have, as well as on the stocks module to make sure we're not buying more than we can afford. But for now, I'll do it like this, and here I'll name this sell. Again, will soon be adjusted to then really differ a bit more from the other stock file. So with this in place, we got this hooked up. We should name this sell stock here. And then I want to add my sell stock method. So I'll implement sell stock here. And sell stock will now create an order as well. In this order, I of course will have a stock ID. So this stock ID, I want to have a stock price, this stock price. And we also want to have a quantity, the quantity we enter into this field, which is bound with the model to our return property here. our quantity property here, excuse me. I do have access to the price. Oh, that should be a colon. So I do have access to the price here because in my portfolio module in my store, when getting a stock portfolio, I'm mapping each object in this array and I do add this price field. Now the only thing we're not doing right now is we're never using the stock portfolio getter. We're not using it here in the single stock item because that's not the place where we should use it. And the portfolio component is pretty empty. We'll work on this soon, but let me first finish this stock component because after creating the order, we of course want to dispatch it. And now I'll show a different way to do this by importing map actions from Vuex. Since I only have one action here, that is a bit, well, too much work, or you wouldn't actually need to do this. You could directly dispatch it here, but I'll show it anyways. So here I'll use the 3 dots to then call map actions and distribute all the properties this is going to create for us. And then here I'll pass an array and I will simply import cell stock. This now gives me access to this cell stock here. I can now execute this safely because I know this action will be created by map actions for me. You could also pass an object here and map a different name for you to use in this component here than the one you set up in the store. Cell stock is the name of this method in the store. With that, we set up this. Now the next step is to go to our portfolio and actually load all our stocks there. So let's do that next.